Ethan lay on the operating table, the harsh surgical lights blurring above him as the anesthetic settled in. His phone, placed beside the monitor, lit up with one last notification before the screen dimmed. He glanced over instinctively, only to see Madison, his wife, smiling in a dimly lit office, raising a glass of wine beside Derek. Her caption read, "Finally free, no more burden," posted at the exact moment he was being prepped for emergency surgery. Laughter, drinks, and celebration, right inside the company's conference room where she should have been finishing a deadline. Ethan's pulse tightened, not from the injury, but from the sting of betrayal cutting deeper than the scalpel about to touch his skin. He didn't argue. He didn't call. He simply typed one word under her post before the anesthesia took over. "Congratulations." When Ethan woke up after the surgery, the first thing he reached for wasn't the call button or the water cup. It was his phone. The sting from Madison's post still sat like a weight on his chest, and he needed to know if it was real or just a morphine-induced hallucination. But as the screen lit up, the truth stared back at him with unforgiving clarity. The post was still there, untouched, unedited, overflowing with likes and laughing emojis from coworkers who apparently thought her freedom was something worth celebrating. He opened the photo again, forcing himself to look closely at every detail. The timestamp matched perfectly with the moment he had been wheeled into the operating room. The location tag showed the company's downtown office. Behind Madison and Derek, he could clearly see the conference room projector, the glass board with half-finished financial notes, the branded company laptop, and even a stack of confidential files sitting carelessly on the table beside their wine glasses. Nothing about the scene suggested an innocent outing. It was deliberate. It was reckless. And worst of all, it was happening in a place Ethan knew they had no right to use for anything other than work. The next morning, Ethan woke to the vibrations of his phone buzzing nonstop on the hospital tray. At first, he thought it was a nurse reminder or a group message from his family. But when he turned the screen over, the notifications were stacked so densely that the banner bar couldn't even load them all. Every alert was from Madison. Missed calls, voicemails, messages ranging from frantic apologies to desperate demands for him to answer. He opened the first unread text. Her words were scrambled, rushed, full of panic instead of remorse. She said she and Derek had both been temporarily suspended, that it was all a misunderstanding, that they just needed him to talk to the company and explain things. Another message came seconds after. "Please pick up. They're saying this could cost us everything." Ethan didn't respond. He simply set the phone down and let her messages pile up. It wasn't cruelty. It was exhaustion. He had spent years holding this marriage up, and now, ironically, silence felt like the calmest choice he'd made in a long time. Then another notification popped up, this one not from Madison. It was from Emily, Derek's fiancée. Her preview text read, "What's going on? Why is Derek tagged in this post? Is this real?" Ethan's jaw tightened. Emily didn't deserve to be blindsided the way he had been. She was kind, always polite during company gatherings, always the one who brought homemade desserts to office events. She deserved the truth, at least as much as he did. He opened their message thread, attached the screenshots of the Instagram post, and typed, "I thought you should see this directly from me. No additional commentary. No emotional plea. Just evidence." Within moments, his phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't panic, it was shock. A long string of messages came from Emily. Confusion. Denial. Anger. Then finally a simple, "Thank you for telling me." Ethan leaned back against the pillow, closing his eyes as his phone continued to vibrate. He didn't have the energy to read everything at once, so he scrolled to the missed call log instead. 27 calls from Madison. 4 from an unknown number, likely Derek. 2 from her mother. He ignored them all and dialed one number he trusted. Lucas, his older brother and a seasoned attorney. Lucas answered on the second ring, his voice calm but firm. What happened? Ethan didn't tell the story dramatically. He simply laid out the facts. Surgery, the post, the evidence, the tag, the aftermath. Lucas exhaled slowly. I'll handle the legal side. You focus on recovering, and don't respond to her, not a single message. Ethan felt a weight lift off him. For the first time since the betrayal, he had backup. Real backup. By mid-afternoon, another notification came in, this time from Madison again, but her tone had changed. Gone were the frantic apologies. Now she was furious, accusing him of ruining their careers, blaming him for escalating things, claiming he should have talked to her privately. Ethan didn't bother responding. He simply turned the phone face down and breathed in the quiet of the hospital room. The chaos was spreading faster than he could track, and for once, none of it came from him. He had only exposed the truth. The rest was happening on its own. That afternoon, as sunlight filtered weakly through the hospital blinds, Ethan's phone rang with a number he recognized, the main line of Madison's company. He hesitated for a moment before answering, unsure whether he even wanted to hear what would come next. A stern voice greeted him, belonging to someone from the HR department. She asked if he had a moment to talk. Ethan agreed, though part of him already knew where this was heading. The representative spoke carefully at first, thanking him for his patience, verifying his identity, and explaining that an internal review had been launched overnight. Then her tone shifted, becoming colder, more formal. She stated clearly that, after reviewing the evidence, photos, timestamps, security logs, and the multiple violations, the company had decided to terminate Madison and Derek effective immediately. No probation. No reconsideration. No appeal. The decision was final. Ethan listened silently as the list of violations was read aloud. Unauthorized use of corporate property. Consumption of alcohol on company grounds. Accessing restricted areas without clearance. Violation of confidentiality by leaving client materials exposed. Unprofessional behavior damaging to the company's reputation. It was a long list, and each item hit harder than the last. The representative apologized that he had been dragged into the situation while recovering from surgery. She reassured him the company was taking the matter seriously and thanked him for his cooperation, though Ethan had barely done anything besides tell the truth. By the time the call ended, he sat staring at the ceiling, feeling the strange blend of closure and sadness twist inside him. He had lost a marriage, but the consequences unfolding weren't his doing. They were the natural result of choices Madison had made long before that night. Minutes later, another wave of notifications arrived. This time from coworkers, acquaintances, and even people he barely knew. Some messages were apologetic. Others were shocked. But the tone was the same. Madison's scandal had already spread through the entire company. Someone leaked the screenshots. Someone else posted the office security logs, showing Madison and Derek staying late, that night without authorization. Then came a message from Emily's sister. Just 5 words. She ended the engagement today. Ethan stared at the text for a long moment, feeling a sting of sympathy for Emily. She hadn't deserved this. Neither of them had. Later in the evening, the chaos spread even further. A coworker anonymously messaged Ethan explaining that the leadership team had held an emergency meeting. Apparently, Madison had tried to blame Derek. Derek had tried to blame Madison. Both had claimed the other pressured them into staying late. Neither story aligned with the evidence. The company realized quickly that both were lying. Their careers, at least at that firm, were over. Even worse, someone inside the company had shared the original Instagram photo with a wider employee group chat. Within hours, it became the most discussed rumor in the office. Phones buzzed, screenshots circulated, and people who barely interacted with Madison suddenly had an opinion about her downfall. Ethan watched it all unfold from a distance, numb yet strangely composed. He hadn't asked for any of this. He hadn't planned revenge. He had only written one word, left one tag, exposed one truth. The rest, the firings, the broken engagement, the spreading chaos, was simply the world responding to what Madison and Derek had chosen to do. And it was only the beginning. The next morning, Ethan was eating a bland hospital breakfast when he heard hurried footsteps in the hallway. He didn't think much of it until voices rose outside his door, familiar, tense, and uninvited. Before he could react, the door swung open and Madison's parents marched in, faces flushed with anger. They didn't greet him. They didn't ask about his surgery or his recovery. They went straight to accusations. Her mother demanded to know why he went behind Madison's back, why he humiliated her publicly, why he did handle the situation privately like a mature husband. Her father claimed Ethan had destroyed their careers and insisted that what happened at the office was being blown out of proportion. None of them mentioned the affair. None of them acknowledged the betrayal. It was as if the only sin committed was Ethan refusing to cover it up. Ethan listened quietly, letting their words wash over him like static noise. Then Madison herself walked in behind them, eyes swollen from crying, but still carrying an air of indignation. Derek trailed after her, avoiding eye contact, his expression shifting between fear and resentment. Madison crossed her arms and said they needed him to clear this up with the company, insisting he explain that the situation wasn't as bad as it looked. She claimed she and Derek had been celebrating the end of a stressful week, that the caption was a joke taken out of context, and that he should help them fix the misunderstanding. Ethan stared at her for a long moment, unable to fathom the audacity. She wanted him to fix the mess she created. She wanted him to lie. She wanted him to save her and her affair partner from consequences she had earned entirely on her own. Before he could speak, another figure appeared at the doorway. Lucas. Suit, briefcase, and an expression carved from stone. He stepped inside with calm authority and positioned himself between Ethan and the growing chaos. Without raising his voice, he told Madison's family that Ethan was recovering from surgery and wouldn't be participating in any emotional confrontations. Then he turned to Madison and Derek, handing each of them an envelope. Inside was the first blow, the divorce petition. Prepared, notarized, and ready for immediate processing. Madison froze. Her face drained of color. She whispered something about trying to fix the marriage, but Lucas cut through her excuses with cold clarity, explaining that the evidence of infidelity, misuse of property, and financial misconduct left no room for reconciliation. Then came the second blow. Lucas handed Derek another document, a formal notice from the company's legal department demanding financial restitution for damages caused by unauthorized use of corporate assets. Derek's hands shook as he read the numbers. It wasn't just a fine. It was a sum large enough to break someone who had just been fired. Madison's parents tried to argue, but Lucas shut them down firmly. He explained that any further harassment would be documented and pursued legally. Ethan remained silent throughout, watching the scene unfold with a detached calm he had never felt before. He didn't have to defend himself. He didn't have to yell. He didn't even have to speak. The truth and the consequences spoke louder than anything he could say. Eventually, Madison broke down crying, mumbling that none of this was supposed to happen. Derek grabbed her arm, urging her to leave, clearly terrified of the legal storm forming around him. Her parents gave Ethan one last glare before following them out. And just like that, the room fell quiet again. The door closed. Their footsteps faded. The chaos they brought with them evaporated into the sterile hospital air. Ethan exhaled slowly, feeling pressure release from his chest. He didn't win anything. He didn't celebrate. But for the first time, he realized he no longer felt trapped. The collapse of their lies had finally begun, and he hadn't lifted more than a finger. Madison did not disappear quietly after the confrontation at the hospital. If anything, losing her job and seeing the divorce papers only pushed her into a frantic spiral of desperation. Within a day, she began posting on social media again, crafting long, chaotic paragraphs claiming she had been set up, that the situation was mutually misunderstood, and that Ethan was weaponizing her mistakes to ruin her life. She conveniently left out Derek, the drinking, the caption, and the misuse of company property. But the internet isn't kind to liars. Within hours, people commented screenshots of her original post, exposing the contradictions. Every attempt she made to shape herself, as the victim cracked open under the weight of her own words. In the months that followed, Madison's life continued to unravel in ways she had never imagined. The initial shock of losing her job evolved into a slow, painful collapse that extended far beyond her career. She applied for dozens of positions, tweaking her resume, rewriting her cover letters, even leaving certain parts of her employment history intentionally vague. But the industry she worked in was small, tightly connected, and full of whispers. Every time she reached the final interview, something shifted. Calls stopped. Emails went unanswered. It didn't take long for her to realize the truth. Her reputation had already spread farther than she ever could have predicted. The final moments settled into a quiet realization that everything which had happened had been leading to this single point of clarity. There were no more accusations to throw, no more secrets left to weaponize, and no more illusions strong enough to hide behind. Each character stood facing the consequences of their choices, feeling the weight of every lie and every truth that had been forced into the open. The chaos that once consumed them slowly dissolved, leaving a stillness that felt both unsettling and strangely liberating. Relationships that had been fractured now revealed their true shape, whether that meant breaking entirely or beginning to repair with hesitant, fragile steps. The reality of their situation demanded acceptance, even if that acceptance came with pain. No one walked away unscathed, but each carried a new sense of understanding about themselves and each other. The story did not end with victory or defeat, but with a sober acknowledgement that growth often comes from the ruins of what once was. As the dust settled, there was a faint sense of renewal, an unspoken promise that what comes next will be shaped not by deception, but by the hard-earned truths they finally dared to confront.